Welcome to You Multicultural channel. This is the Newcomer Network, and I'm Jocelyn Gilbert, always bringing you lots of information for the newcomer community in Manitoba. Last episode, we were talking about newcomers in businesses. And this episode, we are going to keep talking about it. So I have a special guest, and she's Keisha. Hi, Keisha.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing good.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you here.
Yes, me too.
Yeah, before we start, I would like you to introduce yourself
Ah.
to our community and talk about what you do.
Okay, well, that's never an easy question, but hi everyone, my name is Keisha Paul, and it's hard to define myself because I do a lot of things. The main root of what I do is I empower people. So whether it's through consulting, speaking at engagements, whether it's training people, or whether I'm hosting events, I try to make people feel bigger, feel better about themselves. I've been lucky to live in different places around the world, so not just Canada, but the UK, the Caribbean, as well as the United States. And I bring little flavors of that in everything that I do. So I help newcomers, I help everyone, but I also would say I'm informed by my own perspective as a newcomer because I've lived that experience a whole bunch of times, even though I was born and raised in Canada.
Today, we would like to talk a little bit about the importance of personal branding for our entrepreneur. Because when we arrive here, we are new, we don't know anybody. And I remember when I met you, it was during the Black History Month at an event, and I looked at you and I said, we have to do something. And I see you so successful, and I know you are the best person to talk about that and give a few tips to those immigrants who also would like to be there, well known in the community. And I always say, I will be working on my personal branding because if I launch a business, people will trust the business because they know me and they trust me.
Yes.
And yeah, here I am. I just launched my own business, and people have been receiving it with lots of support. Yeah. So what do you think about it?
As an entrepreneur, it's necessary. But what happens is your personal branding starts usually far before you've even started or you even have a strategy for personal branding. So in your example, I had seen you on so many touch points, social media, LinkedIn, you name it. And so when I met you, when I got off of that stage at the Black Talent Initiatives event at Black History Month last year, everything aligned. You had been doing personal branding while you were still in jobs before you'd started your business. As a newcomer, that's key. It's huge. It's applied to me in my life because, I grew up in Winnipeg, but I lived in the UK. I went there straight after university. And then when I was in school before, when I was young, we lived in the States for a little bit. And then coming back, I went to the Caribbean and I was living out there. And in each of those stages, people are perceiving you, people are seeing you. You have 7 seconds to make a first impression, and then there's all the other impressions after that. Often I think what happens is when people think of personal branding, they'll be like, oh, well, when I'm starting a business, I'll start personal branding. I'm like, no, honey, you started branding a long time ago. What are you known for? And it's oftentimes if you have a strong personal brand, you're known by certain values, you're known by certain actions. There's things that you've done that people are like, oh yeah, I remember when this person did this for me, or more importantly, how they made you feel. Well, the first thing as a newcomer, when you start your business, you're going to tap into that. So before you've started your business, or in my case, right, I was going different places for jobs. Well, it was because when I actually started my business, it was after I had had jobs. Newcomers everywhere, listen, I don't care where on the corporate ladder you are, whether you're scrubbing the floors, whether you're in admin, whether you're managing or you're in the C-suite, after that, you're going to leave and start a business. Most newcomers want to start a business. The thing is, it's just kind of like, be intentional about what you're putting out there before you start this business. So for example, sometimes I say to people what are your favorite brands, and people would name a whole bunch of brands. And then I'm like, what are your favorite brand names? and they'll name a whole bunch. And I'm like, okay, how would you feel if you were working for one of those brand names? Oh, I'd feel this way. What if you had to represent your brand? Then they change it slightly. They might like act more aligned with the brand. I'm like, what if that last name, whether it's, well, I don't know if I can name the brands on the show, but it's like, think of like these names that have turned into brands, whether it's the makeup you use or the handbag you wear. And it's just kind of like, what if that was your last name? You would be a lot more intentional about how you put yourself out there because you're representing a brand. That's the first step that newcomers can have about how they're representing themselves in companies. And I hate also, I'll tell you a little pet peeve of mine. And when I'm working with my clients, this word is forbidden. Well, actually 2 words. One is just. I was like, oh, I was like just this or whatever. I was just that. Just is such a minimizing word. Like, oh yeah, I was like just a doctor, or I was just whatever the title may be, but they also add it with back home. So it's almost like back home is another planet. So you could be from Sri Lanka and you're like, oh, yeah, I was just working in manufacturing back home. When you really dig a little deeper, you'll find that person was head of supply chain and logistics in for these many brands and this many factories that make the clothes that we wear every day, you know, quote unquote, just back home. And it's so minimizing. And what I think is sometimes people come to Canada, me included, because I came back from England and I didn't have any network, right? I had lost my network because I wasn't in touch with these people for years. But you'll say, oh, I did all these things and I just did it back home. And it's like, no, wait a second, you need to reposition that. Your personal branding starts when you introduce yourself to people, say what you were doing. It still counts. Actually, it counts more because chances are that industry that you're working on was way more powerful than one here, simply because population size, competition, all those things. Like Canada recruited you for a reason to come to this country.
Yeah.
So put it on display, you know, don't say, oh, back home, oh, and because you don't have Canadian experience, it doesn't matter, right? So that's something, clearly I can go on and on about this, but you need to tell people what you have done, where you're from, and who you are. And if they are not responding to it, you can tell them maybe they have a bit of glassy eye, like they don't understand. Tell them a little bit more. Take them on that journey.
I think sometimes people feel uncomfortable just being out there and they don't want to showcase what they do. They don't want to be in social media. They feel shy to attend networking events. And when they start a business, they focus on promoting the business, but nobody knows that they have that business.
Right.
So that could be something I think people should focus a little bit before they launch a business.
Yeah.
So once they are out there, people trust.
Yes.
Because sometimes people trust people instead of the name of a brand that they don't know who's running it.
Absolutely. You know, I learned this when working in media at CBC, right? So one of the things I didn't mention is I used to host a radio show. And when we were getting trained by CBC, which is like a massive brand with so much weight that I didn't even think about. You just grow up hearing the CBC, but you don't realize the weight of this Canadian brand. And when they were talking to you, they're like, one of the things that they talk to us a lot about is like, people can engage with story. Like they want the story. So for a newcomer coming into a new place, they've been working, they've been doing all these things. Maybe they've been most likely been discounting themselves, whether they were shown to discount themselves on their old experience or they've just done it on their own. They're discounting themselves. And then all of a sudden this brand pops out or this business pops out of nowhere and you want people to buy in, but it's this lifeless thing. It's not attached to anything. Whereas if you were promoting yourself, promoting what you're doing in the community, you're building trust, even if people don't really understand what you're doing, the fact that they're seeing it multiple times, those touch points of seeing you out there, that consistency in itself builds trust, right? So it's building trust, it's building character, it's connecting people to the story. So even if you're like, especially when you're making mistakes at the beginning, people actually really love to see that because it makes you a human being. And then I'm not buying into a product. I'm not buying to like this lifeless thing. I'm buying into Jamal's story or Hussein's life journey or, you know, like Jocelyn's like pathway, you know, and people really like doing that.
Yeah.
So it's not something that you have to hide away.
Yeah, we are not into logos anymore. We are into people. Yeah, we want that connection.
Exactly. Think of, am I allowed to talk about like specific brands here or is that a no-no?
Yeah, you can.
I can? Okay, so imagine like Rihanna. When I do talks, that's one brand that I talk about a lot. It's not a brand, it's a person. It's Rihanna,
it's
right?
A brand.
But it is a brand, right? And I was learning about her because when Rihanna was on her kind of like personal journey before she ever started the makeup company, she was using her namesake for other brands to sell things. So once it's like she got popular enough, people wanted her for everything, whether it was, you know, a razor or a skin cream or whatever. And she would talk to them a lot about the areas that they were missing, right? Like, you're not speaking to consumers like me. There's no shades for me. There's no sizes of the women that I used to grow up with back home. And she got ignored. And what ended up happening is she's just collecting product knowledge all the time. She's collecting information. And at the same time, while she's collecting that information, she's branding herself. She was always posting. She was always on Instagram. She was like, and it was not anything. Sometimes she had nothing to say. It was just sharing parts of her day. But people aligned so well with that versus other celebrities. Like, let's say Beyonce. It's more curated. Everything is perfect. When she launched Fenty Beauty, I mean, it was crazy. People picked it up like gangbusters because it was like they were buying into Rihanna. I had a little piece of Rihanna right with me, and I'm supporting that journey as well. And she makes me feel a certain type of way.
Yeah.
So again, it's like, it's a product, but it's a person. Yeah. And we can even do that in our own small way that can turn into way bigger things. Yeah.
From the beginning, I remember I decided to work on my personal brand about three years ago. And I talked to myself, hey, Jocelyn, people need to know that you have the skills.
Yes.
And I was out there very consistent, and that helped. Yes. Because I didn't have a business idea. But once I got the business idea, I said, no matter what I launch, people will support because people trust me.
Exactly.
People like, not everybody, but people like me and they know me already. And what I'm there in social media, I'm real.
Exactly.
You know that day.
I do. Yeah, I hugged you. I was like...
So I think if you are trying to start a business in the next years, start working on your personal branding, be out there, show yourself that you have the skills, connect with the people, because people connect with people. And you will need not only clients, you will need partners, you will need collaborators, you will need people who trust you to work with you.
And you know what? I will say, even sometimes I feel guilty about talking about personal branding because I can be so horrible on social media. I'm inconsistent. And I remember it was when someone said, consistency builds trust. Like, it builds trust because people don't see you. However, as great as social media is, I think sometimes we forget that there's so many other ways to be consistent. There's so many other ways to be out there. Like, for me, when I first meet people, that I can have a ritual of how I meet them, or even on LinkedIn. Usually when I'm really good, anytime I add someone on LinkedIn or somebody adds me, I always reach out. The amount of business I've gotten just from that, from not just in Manitoba, but from around the world, I've gotten business just from being like, hey, I'm this is what I do, but I'm really interested in you. I see that you just did that. That was great. I'm wondering how we can work together. I'm wondering like what we can do together, and it's really done wonders for me. And this is somebody who, like, when I see that little camera, or I see whether it's on a cell phone or it's an actual camera in a studio, I get so scared. So it's not something that will necessarily come naturally. But I think sometimes we think, oh, well, it's out of my comfort zone. Comfort zone is like a couch. You're comfortable, but like, what do you really do there other than waste time and watch social media and watch TV and eat food you're not supposed to? It's good to have a rest once in a while, but at the same time, your dreams don't happen in your comfort zone. You do have to push out of it.
Yeah.
So I would say to people who are new, like, I've been in your shoes, definitely get engaged in social media. You'll be happy that you did. But outside of that too, think of all the touch points that you interact with all the time. How are you making people feel? How are you presenting yourself? How are you, like, even like physically, like, how are you presenting yourself? And I know some people will get like feel weird about, oh, can I be my authentic self here? Can I wear my authentic clothes? Can I do these things? Because that is part of it, right? A lot of people feel like they have to give something up to excel in this other area. And the higher they climb, the worse they feel, because
they're not being their self.
They're not being their self. They're not being their self. And I think definitely it's good to connect with people who are like-minded and know like where is safe to and where is not to. But definitely when you sit down and think about your values as a human being, your objectives and what you're trying to get to, and being like, how can I do this each step of the way, and then be authentic to that promise for yourself. Maybe you don't bring everything out, but you still remain true to yourself, and you do things and you don't do things based on those values. You'll at least feel good when you get to that milestone, whether it's in a career, whether it's in your community, or whether it's in a business.
Yeah. And that's good that you mentioned that, because people think it's just about social media. But when you attend an event, the relationship you build with those people, be yourself, be kind, how you want to present yourself.
Yes.
Look for those people who are aligned to your vision and your values.
Yes.
And these are things that we need to consider too.
100%. 100%. Like, there's a ritual. I'm glad you brought up that example, like being in person. There's something that, for me, every time I go to an event, usually these days when I'm at an event, I'm working. But when I go to an event, I think about, like, before I go there, if I wasn't emceeing an event, let's say I was just attending a networking event for work or something like that, I think about, like, what do I want to get out of this? Who do I want to meet? Why do I want to meet them? Like, what goal do I have? Like, what's my objective? Going to networking events for network events is a huge waste of time.
Be intentional.
You need to have an intention. And then for that person that you want to meet there, you don't have to meet them there. You can meet them on LinkedIn. You can add them on LinkedIn and say, hey, I think, I'm not sure if you're going to this, but I'd really like to meet. Jocelyn, you'd be so surprised the amount of business leaders, how sweet and kind they are, and how much, especially as they're nearing retirement, how much they just want to, like, offload and help. And we're too shy because we put people up on a pedestal, or we're like, oh, they're too different from me, or they're, this race and I'm that race, and all these different things. There's this gender and I'm that gender. And all they want to do is help because they're in legacy building mode. That's the person who will help you so much.
And you mentioned a word that rang my bell.
Ding, ding.
It's like shy. Sometimes we feel shy to ask.
Yeah.
Sometimes we feel shy to approach other people.
Yes.
And I say, there's something I always say, because of our shyness, many dreams die every day.
Dreams die in shy.
Yeah, because we're shy. Because when I'm shy to ask for a favor or to ask you for support or an advice, whatever, I'm not getting it because I just don't ask.
Yes. Well, first of all, you don't ask, you don't get. Yes,
Yeah.
you might be rejected, but that doesn't mean rejection is not failure. You need a certain amount of them before you actually get to your goal anyway. So you might as well just ask and get the rejections out of the way so you can start getting to the yeses. You know, you think about it like that. Like,
Yeah.
I will have to hit a whole bunch of rejections. That can be just doing simple things in the workplace. That could be in the business place as well, right? Like, that's even in dating. You're going to get a lot of no's when you're asking for dates before you meet the one, right? So I think, but that shyness is huge. I remember when I was in England, I ended up consulting for the winner of The Apprentice. So they had the TV show in America. They had it in the UK as well. And when I was consulting for her, she was working like alongside one of the companies I was working for. And as she was going forward in the show, I was realizing, oh, like, there's a good chance like she's gonna win this show. And I was new in my career. I was new to England. I didn't know a thing about a thing. I dressed horribly. Like, you can just imagine it. I was all over the place. But with that being said, I knew that she was going to win. And because she was a doctor, she didn't know a lot about business, but I did. Well, at least I thought I did. And I was willing to offer whatever I could. And so what I did was I called her and I said, I found her contact details, and maybe it wasn't a call, it was an email. Let me not get crazy. It was an email, and I said, you know what, listen, I put together a presentation and like a proposal, and I'd like to present this to you. And I emailed her, and she's like, yeah, absolutely, that would be great. Now, I did consult for her. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be, but I couldn't believe how easy it all was. You know, like, and not to say it's always going to be easy, but as I said, we all are a bundle of problems that need to be solved as human beings. And, you know, you as a newcomer don't escape that, and neither do the people that you want to approach. You'd be surprised, like, just you taking that step, opening that door, where you'll get, you know. And don't let the words of the world and all this divisiveness come in between you and your dreams either. We can put a roadblock in. It's not just shyness. Sometimes you turn on the news, this one's fighting with that one. Oh, how could they ever listen to me because I fall in the wrong category? You don't know until you try.
Yeah.
So just do it.
Keisha, do you have any advice for those people who are new to Canada or not very new to Canada, but they're immigrants and they would like to start their own business in terms of being there, showing up?
Yes, I do. I would, where do I start? I have a lot of advice. So first of all, you can get in touch with me at Chat with Keisha on Instagram, or go on my website, keishapaul.com, if you have any fulsome questions, but hopefully this is helpful. Any advice? I would say really dig down deep. Think about what makes you special and important and what you have to offer as a human being. And then couple that with what's missing in the market. Because as we said, people are buying into you and they're buying into this business. And the last thing I'd say is think about your network. And you might be like, oh, well, I'm only invested in my cultural community or my religious community. But no, think about it. You buy insurance. You go to the grocery store, you throw parties, you do this. You have a network of community outside of you. You know, you go for a massage that you don't think are part of your community, but they are. You see them regularly. You don't think that person doesn't want to see you win. They do. And they want to be part of that journey for you and your family and your colleagues. So know that, like, you're not as isolated as you might think, but you can't stay where you are. You need to build on from that.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Keisha. Thank you so much. And remember, we are one community. Yeah, thank you everybody for being there once again with us in this episode. This is the Newcomer Network at You Multicultural Channel, and Jocelyn Gilbert, that means me, I'll be waiting for you in the next episode. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. See you next time.